Thank you, Jay. Wait a minute. That's not what you expected, Sioux Falls, I'm guessing, right? Jeff, I can tell by the look on your face that clearly that sounds better in my head than when I sing it, right? Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. My singing career would be more short-lived than a corn stalk on 57th in Minnesota, true? Right? Outdone by Cornelius. Why would I do that? Why would I put you through that torture? Or better yet, why would I put myself through that torture and slightly embarrass myself? I've got friends here, I can see with their heads still in their hands. Why would I do that? The song Vacation by the Go-Go's, it's a 40-year-old song, really doesn't have anything to do with leadership, does it? I guess unless you need a vacation. But singing that song in front of a group of strangers when you clearly can't sing just may have everything to do with it. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful observations of businesses that thrive versus those that survive, the leaders that rise versus those that stay stagnant. Their organization and their leaders are fearless. But what I'm not talking about tonight is I'm not talking about Superman, right? That you have this insane courage. Or like a Viking, you know the Viking that kind of looks before they leap? You know, like fearless Vikings? You know, like a real Viking? Not like the ones we're seeing on Sundays right now? I got a few Bears fans, and there's always some in every crowd, right? And so where do you fit on that scale of thriving versus surviving? Folks, one of the questions that I ask leadership quite often at the onset, and it kind of gives you an idea of where you are. In fact, I'll ask you the question tonight. And it's a powerful one to know whether you're thriving and you're moving forward, whether you're really being defined by your failures. And the question is this: when is the last time you did something for the first time? When is the last time you did something for the first time that you weren't guaranteed success? For the last 4 years that I did my best thinking, and I reached into my gown and I pulled out that roll of toilet paper and I grabbed the end of it and I dropped it over the podium. It hits the stage, rolls across the stage, down the steps, and 2,000 people burst into laughter. 2,000 people while I'm reading this speech going on and on and on. A kid that was scared of public speaking. I could have never known. I could have never known how that day would change my life. Hallmarks of leaders that rise is that they'll take over something that no one else wants. I kind of have a joke, that Northeast Nebraska farm kid, it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, right? It's your job to make it look better. That's right. For those of us as leaders, those are a couple ways to rise fast, and they're courageous. But I want to talk for a quick second for those of you that represent the business owners or the executive team. One of the hallmarks of leaders that rise in good times and bad, organizations that thrive, is the fact that they make it safe for the people to do this. They make it safe for their people to fail. They give them a white sheet of paper and they say, try and learn, focus fast, fail fast. It's so paramount that we as leaders create this environment in our organizations to make it safe for our people to try. That I think is one of the most fascinating leadership talks or leadership development concepts out there. On that day in 1956, what Roger used was a technique that was legal, but at that time was somewhat controversial. Roger used pacers. For those of you that don't know what pacers are individual teammates that will run the race with you. They can run as fast as you, but they just can't run as far. And their job is to make sure they run as long as they can, as fast as they can, so Roger can just keep up with it. The question I have for you tonight in your leadership development is, who are the pacers in your life? Who are the pacers in your life that are designed to push you farther than you've ever pushed? A lot of times, folks, it's usually not your spouse or significant other. It's usually not friends or family. Sometimes it's not even coworkers. I can guarantee you it's not my parents, because they're probably watching tonight, and I could give the cruddiest speech tonight in the world, and they'd be like, "That's my boy, he does so good," right? "I'm so proud." That's not the feedback we're looking for. The pacers in your life are designed to push you, to give you the real stuff. In over 2 decades of developing talent, I can tell you this, that the pacers in your life really only need 2 very simple characteristics. The first is they have to know they're a pacer. They have to know that their job is to keep you on pace. Like Roger used those in his race, they have to know that where the goal is, what you're trying to accomplish, and their job is to give you the real information. And this is powerful for leadership development. What is the genesis of this is the fact that you can rapidly develop your bench strength in your organization by putting these pacers. The second characteristic that they need is they have to have been there. They have to have done it. So having those 2 characteristics give us the ability to have those people in our life that revolve through. Think about for a second, think early on we talked about the fear. The thing that you fear the most, right? The thing that is maybe holding you back in your leadership. The thing that the last piece that you need to do what you want to do. The last piece that you need in order to grow your business. Think about having that there and putting people in your life that help you to rapidly develop that. And that is the hallmark of these organizations that are really not only growing their people, but they're growing their business. I've always had a saying that if you want to grow market share, grow your people. 8 years ago, I was in the Yankton market, responsible for growing that one. And at the time, my boys, Zach and Xander, were just little boys. They were 9 and 7 years old. And so we went out on this place up on Lake Yankton where there's a bunch of bush you can see and just a whole bunch of forest. It's a beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places, I think, in the world. And so backpacks in tow, we park the truck and we go hiking. And we go about 1.5 miles inside of this forestry area, and we're having fun. And what we do is we come up on this area inside the forest where the trees have kind of fallen in on each other, the dead trees. And so we decided that we're going to make an X cave, like excellent adventure, excellent day with Dad, whatever the case is. And we spend the day, folks, doing stuff that would make their mother cringe. Like hatchets and knives, right? We're cutting dead branches and we're building this X cave. That day, I was teaching my sons to walk farther than they've ever walked, kind of literally and figuratively. Throughout the day, I started dropping hints to them. And I started telling them, how would we find our way out of here? Which way does the sun go? How do we get our bearings? How do we do this stuff? Again, pushing them mentally farther than we've ever walked. That wasn't the end result. I thought I had a picture of that. Anyways, we really built this thing out. Now it's 4:30 at night, and it's about this time of year, so it's cold, it's getting dark. And I leaned down to my boys with their backpacks on, just little guys. And I said to them, boys, we're going to assume that we're in a crisis. We're going to assume that Dad is not able to help you get out of here today. And so you two need to work together to find yourself out of here. Get your way back to the truck. And of course they look at me and I said, now, in about 20 seconds, I'm going to leave you two here to figure it out. Boys, I said, the only way you make yourself out of a crisis is you have to work together. And now you're out of time. And I got up and I bolted. I took off as fast as I could and I left my two boys in the middle of that forest. Some of you in this room know what I was trying to do. For the rest of you, don't think I'm bad dad of the year. What I actually did was I went about 25 yards and I dove into a bush and I hid. And I waited. I waited to see what they would do. And they turned and they walked together. And they started working together. And pretty soon, those two little boys, over the next 45 minutes, found their way out of that forest and all the way to the truck. while Dad was crawling on his belly so they couldn't see me. I tell you that story of my kids because in Sioux Falls, this is the only place I could probably tell that because you all get this. But the other reason that I tell you the story of these two little guys is because even 8 years later, when they're more grown men, I can still see it in their face. I can still see it in their eyes. I can still see the day that I pushed them to walk farther than they've ever been pushed. I can see it. And I can see it in yours. I can see it in all of your faces. I can see the fact that here in Sioux Falls, an extraordinary Sioux Falls, you have walked farther than you've ever walked. I sat in this audience 15 years ago when somebody said, we're going to build a city. It's beautiful what you've accomplished. It is amazing to see the difference. It is extraordinary. What is happening in Sioux Falls does not happen everywhere. I formed the company Boiling Frog Development to help leaders recognize that their environment has changed. And boy, has yours ever. I got to watch you when I was in the Southwest in Arizona. I got to watch you over the last 7-8 years from afar. I got to watch how you dealt with tornadoes and floods and recessions and pandemics and whatever else. And the way in which you all have handled that as a business community and as leaders is absolutely fantastic. I can see it in your face. When I meet with you now, I can see it in your eyes. In front of us, folks, now, as some of the previous speakers spoke, we have kind of a whiteboard in front of us. And we can paint whatever we want Sioux Falls to look like. We can paint whatever we want it to look like. For some of you in the audience, if you're thinking about your leadership, you can paint whatever picture you want that to be. You can paint, if you want to be the CEO of your own company, if you want to be dominant in leadership, you can paint that picture. For those of you that are running businesses, if you want to be global or regional or international, I don't care. Can you see it? Can you paint that picture? Can you see it? And for the development organizations in the city, the people that are represented here, can you see it? Can you see Highway 100 just lined with cars and businesses, just growing, people begging to come inside of our industrial parks? Can you see it? 15 years ago, I sat in this stage, I sat in this audience, and I wasn't even a professional speaker then, and I said to myself, someday I'm going to speak at that event. Someday I'm going to have something cool enough to tell a group of people like you, and I'm going to make that happen. And the 3 brushes that I used, folks, were those brushes. That's the picture I painted. And I can tell you, in 114 years of this event, I don't think there's a speaker that's graced this stage that is more thankful to be here than I am. Thank you so much, Sioux Falls. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.